Phantasy Star IV is an incredible blend between classic medieval RPGs and futuristic science fiction with swords, starships and pew-pew lasers. So here I present you 5 beginner tips that will be helpful if you want to get into this amazing game for the Sega Genesis. This includes a crucial advice about the last hunter quest, which can lock you out of an optional dungeon, and the ability to use the ultimate combo attack. I will also avoid any major spoilers because the game has a couple of impactful plot twists that might take you by surprise. So let's start with some of the game's basic mechanics. The bread and butter of the game's combat are skills and techniques that your characters learn while leveling up. Tags replace spells that you know from other RPGs, and you can use them as long as you have tag points. You will learn the typical equivalents of tier-based fire, ice, heal, defense and so on abilities, although you might get confused about their names. Skills on the other hand are unique to each character and they don't consume tag points. Instead, you can use them a limited number of times and you can restore their charges by resting at an inn. Pretty basic so far, right? Now, the unique thing about Phantasy Star IV is that you can combine tags and skills to unleash powerful combo attacks. These attacks decimate enemy lines and often result in an instant screen clear. Most of them require the abilities to be used in any order, but some require a specific order in which you should perform the individual attacks. For example, a very useful combo attack throughout the whole game is the Tri-Blaster, where you have to combine any tier of Foy, Thu and Watt skill. Basically fire, thunder and ice, and the order in which you use the tags is not important. But if you want to pulverize your enemies with a shooting star attack, you have to first use a burst rocket skill and then follow it up with a Foy technique. In addition, you have to make sure that enemies do not interrupt the characters involved in the attack. That means that if an enemy acts in between these characters, the combo won't get off, and instead each character just uses their single ability. I did not know this during my playthrough and it annoyed the hell out of me because sometimes the combo would work and another time doing the same thing it suddenly wouldn't because an enemy sneaked an attack in. It took me quite a while and a nice viewer during my stream to figure that out. So you might now think that you can't really rely on combo attacks during battle, and you are partly right. Thankfully, the developer thought about this and gave you a nice little tool to help you unleash those powerful attacks more consistently, which brings us to the next unique part of the game's combat system. Macros allow you to predefine an entire round of your character's actions, so you don't have to choose the same attacks or skills again and again. It's a neat little time saver and you can build macros for each combo attack that you want to use or just a simple attack whatever enemy is inside command. At least that's what I initially thought. Then I realized that macros also let you predefine the order in which your characters act, regardless of their agility or speed stat, and that's where the magic begins. So now you can not only set up macros for combos where the order in which your characters move matter, but you can also set up macros in a way that enemies won't have a chance to interrupt you. What you have to do is make the slowest character that is not involved in the combo be the first one acting in your macro. That way every enemy will most likely act first because they are faster than your slowest character, and your other characters performing the combo attack will go undisturbed afterwards because that's what the macro dictates. It's the most consistent way to use combo attacks, but the downside of course is that you now have to take an entire round of enemy attacks before dispatching them, and you know what? I think that is totally fine. Combo attacks are significantly stronger than single abilities, and being able to consistently use them would be too powerful and trivialize a lot of fights. This way you have to make a choice. You can either try and get the combo attack out quickly with a chance of getting interrupted, or you can get it out for sure at the end of the round after taking some hits. However, combo attacks are not the only way to help you out in combat. Regardless if you use macros for combos or not, you should definitely set up at least one or two for buffing your party. Buffs are very powerful in this game and mitigate many of the difficulty spikes in regular fights or boss battles. Seriously, I often ignore them in RPGs because bursting down enemies seems more efficient than wasting a turn to increase my stats. But in this game, nothing helps you survive more than an initial round of buffs and debuffs. And by the way, buffs and debuffs do not stack, so don't try to pump yourself up multiple times. They even override each other, so be careful to not override a strong buff with a weaker version. For example, Grizz Warcry skill is a pretty strong damage buff to himself, so make sure to not follow it up with a weaker attack buff from another character. But the good news is that buffs also override debuffs, so if one of your character has its attack lowered by an enemy, buffing that character's attack not only increases his attack again, it also automatically removes the debuff. Oh, and by the way, instant kill abilities, which are usually also ignored in other RPGs, work great in this game, and you would be surprised how many enemies you can instantly dispatch with them. Another thing I did not realize for quite a while playing this game is that you can use some of your equipment during combat to cast skills and techniques, although they are usually weaker than the real versions. This is not even limited to the items your characters have equipped, but also works for equipment in your inventory. So once you figure out which items have this ability, do not sell them, they might be useful later to exploit monster weaknesses in certain situations. The Flame Sword and Thunder Claws are good examples, and especially the claws are very powerful if you use them against mechanical monsters. If you want to have another tip for the early game, you should strip Woon of his wood cane before he leaves the party into nowhere, because using the cane provides a potent healing effect. Now, when it comes to secret stuff you can find, Phantasy Star IV is straightforward. Dungeons often have crossroads that you should explore to find additional items, and even some towns have hidden areas with treasure chests if you fully explore them. Therefore, it's always worth taking your time to look around. There are some optional dungeons that you can find by exploring the world maps, and they offer additional equipment and background stories. They are also not really hard to find, but I will quickly summarize some of their locations. The ship wreckage is in plain sight after you visit the town of Zima and is the first optional dungeon you can get to. The Mystical Valley is in the northwestern part of Desolia, and you will get the Silver Tusk here, which is a pretty powerful claw weapon for weaker. Although it is weaker in war strength than the late game equipment, it decimates dark creatures and you should never sell it. The weapon center is located southwest of Gambier's temple on Desolia and grants you some nice upgrades for one of your android characters. Another source of additional experience, items and money are Hunter quests that you will unlock throughout your playthrough in the Hunters Guild. There are 8 of them in total and they are all worth doing. And now here's the crucial advice. Once you unlock the last of the Hunter quests, immediately try to finish it. It will lead you into another optional dungeon, but after a certain point near the end of the game, the quest becomes unavailable and you are locked out of the dungeon. I can't really tell you when this happens because I don't want to spoil some of the plot twists of the game, but let's just say it happens after you go and finish the story arc of a secret location in the world. You will know what I mean when you get there near the end. The optional dungeon that you go to during the quest is Valhalla Fort, and you will find a major upgrade for one of your characters which enables you to use the most powerful combo spell in the game. So don't wait too long until you finish this mission. Oh, and by the way, the secret location that I mentioned also has an additional secret dungeon in the south, which you also should not miss. Now that covers everything I wish I knew before playing this game. There are probably more tips that some experts could give you, but I think the points I mentioned will enhance your experience. I hope you will not only find this helpful, but that I also sparked your interest in this game because it's totally worth your time. If you made it this far into the video, a like would be highly appreciated, and consider subscribing to my channel for more helpful content on video games. Later.